Welcome to Jerry Recaps. The story unfolds. A long time ago, martial artists of Jianghu used to learn martial arts for their own safety and protection against enemies. But as time passed, martial arts evolved to kill enemies more efficiently, and it grew to be more sophisticated and complicated. The simple forms became a series of movements, and the breathing techniques represented the basics of internal energy. Martial artists left heirlooms to future generations with books and teachings of what they learned, allowing martial arts to evolve. Martial artists were soon the ones who were more powerful than normal humans, as they could run through the trees like the wind, crush stones with their fists, and cut down trees with the swing of a sword. They were soon called the people of Wuling. However, martial artists wanted to become more powerful and gain authority over an area like a ruler. They gathered to form clans. Those who wanted justice and honor called themselves the Force of Justice, and the ones who did not care about using violence and cruelty were called the Force of Evil. And there were those who sought an entirely different route, seeking only strength. They were called the Demonic Cult. The current Wuling was in a tight competition between the three forces. South of Jianghu, there was a place called 10,000 Mountains. It was filled with tons of mountain peaks that spread vastly over the land, and this place was forbidden. It was because this place was the home of the demonic cult. The illegitimate child of the highest-ranking family in the demonic cult who has the right to the throne. This story is Cheon Yeo-Woon's story. Among the mountains, there was a deep forest filled with many dangerous beasts and exotic plants. It was the forest that kept demonic cult separated from other parts of the world. In a deep forest far from the castle of the demonic cult, Yeo-Woon, who looked to be in his teens, was running for his life. Yeo-Woon was exhausted and heavily panting. His clothes were ripped and his face was full of bruises, showing that he had gone through a severe beating before he had escaped. While running for his life, Yeo-Woon accidentally got tripped by a tree branch. Before he realized it, he was at the corner of a huge crater. Tripping from the tree branch, he fell down. He rolled down the cliff, smashing into rocks and letting out a cry in pain. After rolling down, he slammed into the ground. As Yeo-Woon tried to stand, he realized something wrong with his leg. He can't muster the strength to even stand. Yeo-Woon raised his head to look forward. His eyes widened. He smashed his fists on the ground as he tried to stand. "Damn it," Yeo-Woon spoke. Yeo-Woon spat, as he saw 5 masked men waiting to capture him. He had run so hard for the last 30 minutes, but it seemed he couldn't get away. Yeo-Woon held onto his trembling legs and glared at masked men. Their faces were covered, but it was easy to see that they all were smirking. He knew it was the end for him. He could not run anymore or even defend against them. "You did well in running all the way here, Prince Chun. I almost fell asleep while waiting for you." The assassin spoke with a laugh. Yeo-Woon frowned. If they had been waiting for him here, then there was no point for him to continue running in this direction. The masked men all pulled out their swords from their backs. Their eyes were filled with the intention to kill Yeo-Woon. "What should I do?" thought Yeo-Woon. It was his life that they wanted. It didn't seem like talking to them would work. He had used all of his internal energy to run here, so he had no energy left to run or fight. But even with his death waiting for him, his eyes were filled with anger rather than fear. "Why? I gave up on joining the academy already. Why do you want to kill me?" spoke Yeo-Woon. "Prince, you surely know that all of that doesn't matter," spoke Assassin. Yeo-Woon was at a loss for words. He had expected this day to come ever since he was very young, but he didn't expect it would come even before he joined the academy. "As long as you have the right to the throne, it is your destiny." The assassin spoke with a grin on his face as they walked toward Yeo-Woon. The other masked men began making comments also. "Surrender, and we will make this quick. Even if you have peasant blood, we will not dishonor the blood of our lord." Yeo-Woon then became filled with anger. The word he hated the most were the words that insulted his mother. How dare they dishonor my mother? If he was going to die anyway, he might as well try to fight back. He pulled out a dagger. He had never learned martial arts, however. All he knew was whatever he observed from watching his guard, Warrior Jang. A dagger? Did you learn something from Jang? The assassin's leader asked curiously. Sadly, he didn't. If he really did learn it, the skill would have been very useful here. However, it seems he can't run away from his bloodline, thought the assassin leader. His technique is crude. But his blood speaks for itself, that he did not cower away at even death. The masked men seemed to be very happy. It was better for them to kill someone who would not give up than someone who would beg. Kill him. One of the men gave the order, and the other four attacked Yeo-Woon at once. They charged toward Yeo-Woon. Yeo-Woon thought he would hold them off for at least a bit, but that wasn't the case. He swung his sword here and there without any technique, trying to defend himself against the assassins. The assassins seemed to be playing with him, having fun in their hunt. One of them raised his sword to strike Yeo-Woon. One of the masked men used his sword hit to strike Yeo-Woon's wrist, and he dropped the dagger to the ground. Instantly after, the assassin raised his hand to grab Yeo-Woon. Yeo-Woon tried to defend, his face grimacing as he glared at the assassin, but the man grabbed Yeo-Woon's neck. The man's eyes released a purple aura as he spoke. Is that the end of your retaliation? Yeo-Woon's face turned red, but his eyes had not given up yet. He took out another dagger from his back, hidden inside his clothes. At that moment, another man shouted, "Watch out!" What? Everyone was confused as to why he was shouting. But, in just a moment, a dagger stabbed the man's chin. It was a critical strike to the neck. Yeo-Woon fell to the ground. He had a hidden dagger, and the attack killed the masked man at once. Yeo-Woon grinned at the assassins as he checked his neck. What? A mere boy without any martial arts training killed one of my fighters. The leader of the men who were watching became intrigued. It seemed like Yeo-Woon was aiming for this from the beginning. Yeo-Woon was able to do this even though he had not learned any martial arts, otherwise it would have been for them. Another man raised his sword and charged straight toward Yeo-Woon. Damn brat, you are dead. The man charged in and kicked Yeo-Woon in the face. Blood splashed from Yeo-Woon's mouth. It all happened in a flash that Yeo-Woon was still confused about what happened to him. The assassin was quite furious at the loss of his comrade. Just because we went easy on you, you dared to hurt one of us. The assassin raised his sword and slashed it down into Yeo-Woon's stomach. He could only see dazedly. Yeo-Woon's voice spread throughout the forest, as he cried in agony. Yeo-Woon had never felt such pain in his life. A searing pain shot up from his stomach and blood soared up from his throat. The masked man stepped on Yeo-Woon's punctured wound and Yeo-Woon screamed in pain. How does it feel to have a hole in your body? The man spoke. Damn it, so it didn't work twice. But killing at least one of them made him feel better. He was going to die anyway. The ground was drenched with blood. The man could have killed Yeo-Woon at once, but he seemed to be giving Yeo-Woon as much pain as possible. Slowly. I will give you a slow death. The assassin's leader was watching this scene silently from aside. The leader didn't seem to like what was happening, but he couldn't stop him since it was for the revenge of his teammate. Suddenly, a bright light shined as if a lightning bolt had struck. When the light disappeared, the masked men's eyes turned in shock. What? Blood sprayed up like a fountain. The man's upper body blew up in smithereens. The masked man who had been stomping on Yeo-Woon had lost the entire top half of his body, and the blood was spurting upwards. What? Yeo-Woon also was in shock. If he wasn't wrong, some white light streak had zapped the man and his body melted away. The assassins looked at the body dazedly. Suddenly, the leader heard the sound of someone's footsteps. Sweat poured down from his face as he turned around. He could not fathom the strength of the opponent who had killed one of their comrades without them even noticing. It's him! The leader instantly shouted and pointed in a certain direction in shock. Everyone instantly turned to look in that direction. They could see a strange man covered in lightning. The man smiled while looking at them, and he was wearing strange clothes. Sweat poured down from their faces. They had never seen such strange clothes before. The man finally released his arms, starting to take action. One of the assassins, who was already in shock at the appearance of an unknown figure, charged towards the strange man. Who the hell are you? said the man. The strange man did not move a bit, he stood there silently. As the assassin approached him, he smirked and then, in an instant, another bright light shone in front. The man who charged forward got blown up into smithereens, with only blood left that was splashed everywhere. The only ones left were the leader and the remaining masked man. Huh! The assassin was in shock. After firing the second light beam, the strange man disappeared. What happened? Did he disappear in a second? Is that an agility technique? Thought the leader. It wasn't through any movement skill. It was as if he had turned invisible so that he could not be seen. As the leader was immersed in his thoughts, the last remaining assassin also got blown away into nothingness. Someone is helping him, the white light. Is it a beam? Thought the leader. He was in a confused state, and could not react or think of taking any action. If it wasn't an energy beam that was said to be used by highly skilled warriors, there wasn't anything like it that could instantly melt a human. But why is such a skilled master defending a useless brat? The leader could not think of any reason. Someone would go out of his way to protect that brat who does not even know any martial arts or have any position in a demonic cult. The leader straightened his sword in a defensive position. His hands were trembling. Yeo-Woon had lost a lot of blood, so he would die anyway. That kid has already lost a lot of blood, so he is a lost cause anyways. Our mission has been fulfilled, thought the leader. Let's retreat. The leader jumped into the air towards the forest to hide his tracks and run away. While he was in midair, the strange man raised his hand covered in lightning. The leader was then struck with a streak of lightning and he disappeared also. The man screamed in agony on his last breaths. After all the men were killed, Yeo-Woon smiled and chuckled. Ha, that serves you right. Yeo-Woon could not bear the pain anymore. He was losing consciousness. So he closed his eyes, to enjoy his last moments. Later, he heard some footsteps. Then, a strangely clothed man revealed himself in front of Yeo-Woon. He wanted to scream in shock, but he had no energy to do so. Whoa. So, my ancestor feels better even when you're about to die. Ancestor? Who is it? What kind of nonsense is he spouting after appearing all of a sudden? Yeo-Woon thought. He wanted to speak, but he had no energy, and his body was growing cold. He had lost too much blood. Am I going to die now? Yeo-Woon thought. That's when he heard a weird beeping sound. Then he saw something on the silver-clothed man's wrist, and became shocked. Did they find me already? I guess I have no choice, said the strange man. I wanted to come earlier and teach you how to use it, but, oh well, said the strange man. The man took out two things from a small bag. One was a syringe. Yeo-Woon was almost on the brink of death. I should hurry. The man then injected the syringe into the back of Yeo-Woon's ear. He then brought up another syringe and stuck it in Yeo-Woon's heart. It pains me just by looking at it, said the man. Anyway, hey, ancestor. The man called out to Yeo-Woon. Please make it right and make your descendants' life easy, okay? The man brought himself near Yeo-Woon and said lightly, the nanomachine is the latest one there is, so it won't be too hard to use. As the strange man spoke, lightning started reappearing on his body, and disappeared in a flash like nothing existed there. Yeo-Woon was shocked, but he did not pay any mind to it. What kind of nonsense that guy was blabbering about, thought Yeo-Woon. Yeo-Woon then heard a strange sound in his ears. Activating the 7th generation nanomachine of the Sky Corporation. Scanning the user's physical data. Now scanning. Weird words rang through Yeo-Woon's ears and a weird light began glowing from his body. It felt like thousands of ants were crawling over his body, and soon the sound came back. Scanning complete. Emergency. Found a severe wound on the user's stomach. The blood loss is at 13%. Initiating blood injection and healing for life support. And Yeo-Woon's body began to change. It was the beginning of his life's turning point. The next morning Yeo-Woon woke up from his sleep in his room. He instantly got up from his bed. He was quite confused as to have happened. He quickly checked out his body to see if he really is alive. I am alive, but I am sure my stomach was pierced by that sword, said Yeo-Woon. His body was drenched with sweat. He realized that he was sweaty, and he wiped his forehead with his palm. However, he realized that it was not sweat, but something sticky instead. What is this? Huh! He then saw the dark, black liquid on his palm and became shocked. It had a foul stench. The smell was so bad and the liquid covered his entire body as if it had seeped out from his body. That's when the voice came to his head. Master. Are you awake? What? Yeo-Woon said in shock. The voice repeated itself. Master. Are you awake? Who are you? Yeo-Woon got up from the bed and glanced around, but he did not find anyone around. There is not anyone around me? Thought Yeo-Woon. He looks around himself over and over again. Master, please calm down. The voice again spoke to him. Telepathy, no, it's not that. I have heard this once before, but this is different. This sounds like it's directly coming from my head. Yeo-Woon started thinking of different possibilities of who is behind this voice. But all of a sudden, as he realized that the voice was coming from inside his head, he was shocked. That is correct, Master. The voice again responded. Yeo-Woon was irritated by the voice. He could not think of any way to identify the one behind the voice. What? Who are you? Yeo-Woon looked up in the air with wide eyes. He thought if one could send a message directly through his head, one would be a very powerful being. I am the 7th generation nanomachine, made by Sky Corporation to serve as a core to support Master's brain. Wait, what? What are you talking about? Yeo-Woon became pale as what he was being told was beyond his comprehension. The nanomachine realized that the user did not understand their words. Who are you, and what do you want with me? The voice responded in a soft tone. I am the 7th generation nanomachine. Nanomas, an evil god? Yeo-Woon could not understand the explanation, so he misinterpreted it. Yes. I am nanomachine. The voice responded. Yeo-Woon's face turned grim. The evil god was the being that the demonic cult worshipped. The Lord was the one who was given the power to communicate with the said god. Yeo-Woon instantly bends down on his knees. Are you really the evil god? He was now kneeling on his knees, asking with a shaking voice. The nanomachine understood that Yeo-Woon had gotten everything completely wrong. While on the outside, Guard Jiang, who is the guardian of Prince Cheon Yeo-Woon, brought a doctor along to check up on Yeo-Woon. This way, Dr. Beck, said the guard. Was it an assassination attempt? Said the doctor. Guard Jiang, who was the only one that cared for Yeo-Woon, agreed to the old man in a distressed tone. He was extremely angry at the ones who tried to assassinate the prince. Although there have been many assassination attempts recently, I did not they will make such an attempt, said Guard Jiang. The old man spoke while caressing his beard. It was a miracle that Prince Cheon was able to make it out of it alive. While moving towards the prince's room, Guard Jiang raised his suspicions. I am sure someone helped Prince Cheon, but I don't know who it was. He was not able to find even a trace of anyone who could have helped Cheon Yeo-Woon. When the old doctor asked about the scene of the assassination site where he found Yeo-Woon, sweat poured down his face. He could not explain the whole situation in mere words. Prince Chun had been attacked by masked men and was killed by a sword to the stomach. Or so he thought. The guard, Jiang, ran as fast as he could with his movement skill to find Prince Chun. When he found Yeo-Woon, the place was littered with dead bodies that were missing their upper torsos. Only one of the masked men's bodies was intact. But he had been killed with a dagger to his head. It's the dagger I gave Prince Cheon. He didn't teach him a single dagger skill since he was made to swear an oath to not teach any martial arts to Yeo-Woon until he joined the demonic academy. So it was astonishing that the prince had killed even one man. He heard Yeo-Woon's breathing. Jiang then found the prince slumped down on the ground. The ground was drenched with blood, hinting at doom. If the prince died here, he wouldn't be able to find the right words to apologize to Yeo-Woon's mother. However, something was weird. From the looks of his clothing, it was certain that the prince had been struck with a sword to his stomach, but his breathing seemed to be normal. Jang went up to him and picked up the clothes. Prince Chun's stomach was clean of any wounds. It was weird since the ground nearby was full of Prince Chun's blood. The words of guard Jang astonished the old doctor. What is it? Did the Lord? No. The Lord would not meddle with the fight for the throne. But who killed those men and saved the prince then? Said the old doctor. It's getting interesting. Lead to Prince Cheon right away, said the old man. While in Yeo-Woon's room. Did you save my life, God? Cheon Yeo-Woon asked the voice in his head while he lay flat on the ground. The nanomachine answered. If it is about the enemy who tried to kill you, no. But if you are talking about Master's wound after going into self-healing mode, yes. What is self-healing? Yeo-Woon couldn't understand most of the words that the nanomachine used. Nanomachine realized that they couldn't communicate like this. Sending basic information to Master's brain. Huh? Yeo-Woon was again dumbfounded. Nanomachine understood that it needed to find the right words for its master to understand. Searching for the right words for the era and culture. Nanomachine began searching through words and terms so that Cheon Yeo-Woon could understand. After a while, Nanomachine finished selecting the words to communicate. Master, I am not the evil god that you speak of. Cheon Yeo-Woon became surprised at the sudden change of tone, although it still sounded mechanical. What? Then who are you? I am trying to send you the basic information and manual about me to your brain. Will you accept? Nanomachine thought it would be easy to send the information instead of talking about it, and Cheon Yeo-Woon nodded without knowing what it was actually. Then, a video flashed in his brain at once. His eyes shook rapidly as he looked through multiple video images, and soon he felt dizzy. He bent over and kneeled down to the ground to vomit. It is a natural reaction after receiving information through your brain. You will not feel dizzy the second time around, said the nano. Cheon Yeo-Woon recovered from the dizziness and got up. What is going on? It was hard to believe. He had not seen or been taught anything, but he now knew about the machine created with highly advanced technology installed in his brain. Nanomachine? Yeo-Woon called for Nano. Is it true that thousands of machines are now embedded in my body? Yeo-Woon was quite shocked after understanding the knowledge that Nano transferred to his brain. That is correct, around 6 billion nanomachines have now been placed into your body. Nano replied. Cheon Yeo-Woon didn't feel good about having something weird in his body, but he now realized what he was dealing with was not a human nor a god, but a machine. He felt relaxed by the fact and asked, If I want, can you get out of my body? As you saw through the information that was sent, I am programmed to only be extracted outside the body in case you die. The nano explained. Therefore, the machine was bound to stay until Yeo-Woon died. Yeo-Woon was quite confused as his half-brothers were already trying to assassinate him. And now there is even an unidentified nanomachine inside his body. He couldn't understand why this had happened. Who put you into my... Yeo-Woon was trying to ask, but he got interrupted. The door to the room knocked. Prince. Dr. Beck is here. It was Jang's voice. Yeo-Woon wasn't sure about how he should explain the fact that he was talking with a machine, so he stuttered, staying quiet for a while. I can read your thoughts to communicate, Master. The Nano replied. I get it. Just be quiet. Nano went into silent mode. Yeo-Woon got back on the bed and laid down with the blanket over his body. The door opened and a middle-aged man, Jang, and an old man with long white hair came in. The prince seems to be asleep, so we will, huh? Prince. Jang found Yeo-Woon looking at him from the bed and quickly ran up to him. Are you okay, Prince? He then placed his hand over his nose because of the terrible stench coming from the prince. What's going on? Asked Jang. Yeo-Woon forgot what happened to his body because he had been talking to the nanomachine. The black ooze that came out of his body was too terrible to smell. Dr. Beck then walked up with an interested look on his face. He was the designated doctor for the Lord of the Demonic Cult, and was nicknamed Demon Doctor in the cult. Prince Chun, we know each other, don't we? Asked the doctor. Of course, Doctor. Yeo-Woon replied politely. There wasn't anyone in the cult that didn't know about the doctor. Also, Yeo-Woon met him when his mother was sick. Give me your hand. Let me feel your pulse. Dr. Beck raised his hand to check Yeo-Woon's pulse. He was worried that Dr. Beck might find out about his real condition. His hand was sticky from the ooze, so it was embarrassing to show it to him. The doctor said it was okay. He reached out so that Yeo-Woon could give him his hand. Dr. Beck held onto Yeo-Woon's arm for some time to properly check his pulse. While checking, he opened his eyes in astonishment. This is very interesting, said the doctor. What is it? Dr. Beck, did something happen to the prince? Jang asked with a frown. But the doctor shook his head and smiled. No. This is very good actually. This could be a rare opportunity for Prince Cheon. What are you talking about? Guard Jang asked in confusion. The entire body has been cleansed of any dirty substances and his energy flow has been activated. Did he consume a special kind of medicine or something? Dr. Beck asked while suspiciously looking at Yeo-Woon. Yeo-Woon was confused. He could not understand even a word that the doctor was saying. You now have the perfect body to train in martial arts. The doctor explained further. What? Yeo-Woon then understood what the doctor said and became shocked. The black ooze that came out from his body was actually the dirty substances stuck inside his body. What was better was that his energy was now flowing, so he could now learn how to use his internal energy. Hey, nanomachine. Did you do this? Yeo-Woon asked Nano in his mind. Nano deactivated silent mode to answer Yeo-Woon's doubts. Yeo-Woon was still irritated by the way Nano responded to his every command like a puppet. Yes, master. The nanomachines have extracted the unnecessary substances from your body and have reshaped the blood, muscles, and joints to best fit your body's shape. Nano described in detail the changes it made in Yeo-Woon's body. Yeo-Woon assumed that it was probably because of the nanomachine, but it was even more shocking to hear it from the nanomachine itself. Are you really not a Ma-Sin evil god? Nano responded, I am a machine, not Ma-Sin master. The nanomachine answered with its mechanical voice. Although the demonic cult was made up of many clans and families, only 6 among them were main families that are named Sword, Blade, Dark, Spring, Sound, and Poison clan. The lord of the demon cult was bound by an oath to marry a woman from each of the 6 clans to give birth to his descendants. The descendants who were born in each clan were raised in their respective clans, and at a certain age they were admitted to the demonic academy. The demonic academy opens its recruitment every 10 years. It was founded to train the best warriors from each generation. In every batch, there will be intense competition among martial artists. Whenever several heirs join the academy, it would be called the period of the Battle of Heirs by the officials. On the other hand, Cheon Yeo-Woon's mother was a commoner. That was why he had to deal with many difficulties from his childhood. Yun-Woon dazedly looked in the air, smiling himself. I have to keep it secret that I have nanomachine in me. Cheon Yeo-Woon wasn't aware of it, but there was no way that the medical knowledge of this era would be able to find the nanomachine. However, Yeo-Woon did not know this, so he didn't feel good about letting Dr. Beck know, as he was from one of the 6 families, the Poison clan. I hope he doesn't catch on. He tried to hide it, but he became nervous. He was forbidden from learning any kind of martial arts before joining the academy. He did get help from someone. That's certain. The doctor was curious because of the change that had happened to Yeo-Woon. There seems to be nothing wrong with your body. I will prescribe you some tonics that will help with recovery, said Dr. Beck. Guard Jang thanked the doctor for his care. As Dr. Beck turned to leave, Guard Jang wanted to escort him back, but the doctor insisted he stays with the prince. After coming out of the room, Dr. Beck was still confused. He caressed his bears as he thought, how could a person change so much? It's very strange. He thought Yeo-Woon would be pushed down the ranks with his weak body and no knowledge of martial arts. However, his state now proved that he was fit to learn martial arts better than any of the other princes from the other families. Nonetheless, he still was in a bad place to aim for succession. The other princes already had started learning martial arts and had their own forces. He wasn't all that uninterested after all, it seems. The doctor assumed that the reason for this change was due to Lord Cheon Yeo-Woon. He is his son after all. If the Lord had helped secretly, there was no need for him to acknowledge it. Yeo-Woon sighed a breath of relief as the doctor left. Yeo-Woon hadn't even thanked his guard yet. He was the reason Yeon-Woon can get back alive. Nanomachine healed him, but if Jang didn't come in time, who knew what would have happened next? Thank you for bringing me back to. Before Yeo-Woon can finish, Jang coldly said, I'm sorry, Prince. You must wash up first. Guard Jang closed his nostrils while speaking. I really should. It smelled terrible. The doctor called a slave to clean the bed and make preparations so that Yeo-Woon could wash up. While bathing in a hot bathtub, Yeo-Woon was filled with a strange sensation. Does the world want to change my fate? His fate had already been decided the moment he was born to a female slave. All that was left of his life was to survive without being killed. Hey, nanomachine. Yes, master. He had not talked to the nanomachine for about an hour now. Nanomachine did not speak if he did not ask. You said you recovered me from my wound? How far can you do it? I can recover external or internal wounds quickly. But the loss of blood or a body part will require cell replication, which will require a longer time period, replied Nano. I see. The nanomachine had given him a lot of information, but it was still hard to understand. At least it was certain that he could recover from most wounds unless he lost a body part or too much blood. Should I test it? I would not recommend hurting yourself, but if you want to try, I suggest testing it first with a small cut, said Nano. Yeo-Woon then grabbed the dagger placed on his pile of clothing and was ready to cut his palm. He then slashed his palm. Ouch! The pain made him frown. Activating self-healing mode on the left palm. With the voice, the blood stopped flowing from his palm and soon the wound disappeared as if it hadn't been there at all. Green energy appeared around Yeo-Woon's palm. And within a matter of seconds, the blood stopped and the palm healed. It's hard to believe, but it works. There was more that was hard to believe, which included the usage of the nanomachine. Can I really use all the powers that I was given the knowledge of? Yeo-Woon asked. Yes, master. You can use every power of the nanomachine as shown in the instructions, said Nano. Good. I'll test it out after my bath. He was excited to check out the new functions that Nano could provide. Yeo-Woon then got out of the water and clenched his two fists. If he could utilize the power of the nanomachine, he could rise up in power and get revenge on his enemies. Yeo-Woon got out of the bath and looked at his body through the mirror as he dried himself off. His body was originally scrawny and weak, but now it was muscular and well-toned. Nano, how come this makes sense? My body was originally weak, how come it become muscular? How is this possible? Yeo-Woon asked while looking at his body in surprise. I have reconstructed your body, master, replied Nano. Reconstruct? As he pondered over the word. An old lady entered the bathhouse holding clothes for Yeo-Woon. While the servant was dressing Yeo-Woon, he kept on listening to Nano's explanations. About reconstruct. Creating something from nothing is hard, but reshaping your body and muscles is not as hard. Your speaking is so complicated. He had not learned martial arts yet, but he did not slack off in his studies. However, whatever words the nanomachine used were those that he had not learned from any of his education sessions. Yeo-Woon put his clothes back on and went to his office. Your name is too long. Is there any other name I can call you with? You can set any name you'd like, master. I can't think of any, so I'll just call you Nano. I just gave you a name. How about you say thank you? Yeo-Woon joked about it, but there was no way a machine could understand a joke. The nanomachine was a machine and Yeo-Woon was now getting used to it. This is my study. What should I do now? Yeo-Woon asked Nano. Look into a book and just flip through every page, said Nano. Yeo-Woon went to select a book. Do I just have to flip through a book? His office did not have many books. Most of them were related to his studies, and there weren't any books about martial arts. All he had were basic books about gaining internal energy, and that helped him very little. This was the work of all the ladies from the 6 clans. That's why Yeo-Woon could only study this basic internal energy book. Even this was only possible because the Lord himself had sent it to him secretly. If he didn't even learn this, his muscle and veins would have hardened, making it impossible to learn any martial arts even after joining the academy. Let's try it. Yeo-Woon took out a book from the shelves. It was a book about blood flow. Just flip through the pages? Asked Yeo-Woon. Yes. Please start. Yeo-Woon was not convinced, but he started flipping through the pages. He then quickly reached the last page. He did not realize it, but his focus was shaking rapidly. I did it. Scan the book blood passage. Attempting to send the information to the user's brain. Will you accept? Said Nano. Scan? Oh, you mean you copied what it means? Yeo-Woon still could not understand what Nano was talking about. Yes, master. Will you accept? So he unknowingly accepted the command I accept. And the feeling that he felt when he received the nanomachine's manual came back to him. His head felt as if a jolt of lightning had struck him, and the information swept into his brain. Yeo-Woon felt slightly dizzy and he held onto the bookshelf. It was much better than before, but he still felt like everything was spinning around him. Transfer complete. Yeo-Woon started taking deep breaths as the transfer was completed. You will get used to it, master. Due to the huge information load on his brain, he almost threw up. According to Nano, the side effects of information transfer will decrease with time. Are you worried about me? Asked Yeo-Woon. I am just stating the fact. And as Nano said, the dizziness quickly disappeared. Is this over? Woon asked while sitting down on a chair. Yes, master. As you did with the manual, you can think about the related information to bring it up. Yeo-Woon then thought about blood flow, and information about the book that he hadn't even read came up to him naturally. He kept on reading all the information without any mistakes through the knowledge he obtained. What, wow! It was hard to believe, but he had just crammed the entire book into his head without even reading it. He fully understood what it meant. There was an error in the book that was corrected before it was transferred, said Nano. Error? What error? Yeo-Woon was confused as to how there can be errors in the books that had been for decades by the cult. Information about the blood points was wrong, so it was amended. The nanomachine that was created in the distant future had embedded more precise information while scanning the book. This is crazy. Yeo-Woon thought this was amazing. He had to study and memorize books until now, but with this method, he didn't need to spend time on that anymore. I can just cram everything in. Yeo-Woon smiled excitedly. He didn't have that many books in his office, but it was going to be different once he entered the academy. Let's quickly grow stronger than everyone else and survive after joining the academy. That's the goal. He couldn't fight the war for the throne just yet. He needed to focus on surviving for now. Before he could not even practice a normal Qigong technique, but the demonic academy contains several battle and breathing techniques, so he is looking forward to it. Little did Cheon Yeo-Woon know that the power of the nanomachine was not only limited to its information transfer. At the south castle of the demonic cult was the house of Bakhamjong, and next to its main building was a chamber for the heir candidate. A teenage boy standing inside seemed to be very angry, and he shouted angrily, I sent you all to kill one weak boy and 5 were killed instead? The masked man couldn't even answer to quell his anger. In the front yard of the chamber, there was a teenage boy with freckles and a masked man kneeling down in front. It's funny. Do you think it even makes sense? Prince Mukim, I think some warrior helped him, said the masked man. How dare you call my name? The boy turned around in a rage. He was afraid of being exposed for attacking a prince outside the demonic academy. I am sorry, Prince Chun. The man stuttered while he spoke. Chun Mukim was third in rank in succeeding the throne. He had sent assassins from his own Bakmajong family to kill Cheon Yeo-Woon before he could join the academy, but it had failed. I thought he had nothing to help him, but it seems he had something up his sleeve then. It was unexpected. They made Yeo-Woon's guards stay away from him and attack the prince, but they failed. It meant that someone else was also protecting him. Did father do something for him? That's what he had in his mind, but he couldn't say anything about the Lord either. The Lord of the demonic cult was a divine being. Oh well. I'll take more chances after joining the academy. There was no protection given inside the academy, as each of the princes who had guards appointed by the Lord himself wasn't allowed to follow. I didn't want to do it myself, but I guess I have no choice. Cheon Yeo-Woon clenched his fist hard with disgust on his face. The demonic cult is located in the 10,000 mountains. Cheon Yeo-Woon had been lying on his bed for a whole night thinking about his future goals. Due to all the incidents that happened to him in the past one day, he could not even sleep. Later, Yeo-Woon got up from his bed and went to look outside the window. Today is the day he had to join Demonic Academy. The admission for Demonic Academy opens every 10 years. Yeo-Woon stayed up late that night, and now it was time for him to join the academy. Once he entered the academy's doors, he'd lose Jang's protection. He drew a long face as he looked at Jang's dagger techniques. Would it have been better if I learned some of his arts at least? Yeo-Woon desperately watched Jang. He always thought of this, but members of clans were always watching them so he couldn't learn. That's when the nanomachine spoke to him. Master, would you like to skin guard Jang's movements? What? Yeo-Woon opened his eyes in shock. He could not believe that such a thing could be possible. Can you skin a person's movements too? Yeo-Woon asked Nano. It is possible, Master. Then you mean you can skin Jang's martial art movements and transfer them to my head? Woon gulped as he asked Nano. He knew if such a thing could be possible it would change his life completely. Yes, Master. And there is data on multiple martial arts techniques that I can transfer over to you at this moment. Yeo-Woon did not know, but the nanomachine was created with advanced technology from the future. He did not gain approval from Jang. But he was going to the academy in the afternoon. He had to make a choice. He has nothing to protect himself with, either strength nor support. Okay. Scan it. Yeo-Woon gave the command while looking forward to it. Activating the scan. Yeo-Woon's focus began to shake rapidly, and then started to scan Jang's movements. He kept focusing on every bit of Jang's movements. The movement of his body, the offense and defense of the technique, Nanao scanned every movement of Jang's body. After staring at his movements for about 30 minutes, Nano's voice filled his head. Movement scan completed. Beginning transfer. And with the jolt, the movement began to play back in Yeo-Woon's head. Yeo-Woon felt excruciating pain in his head, but now it was bearable. And soon, it was complete. With the slight dizziness, it was done. Yeo-Woon's eyes shined with astonishment. How can this be? This was beyond amazement. He laughed openly. How can this be possible? Yeo-Woon instantly stood up from his place and ran to pick up his sword. Nano. I can't believe this. I think I can use Jang's dagger skill. Yeo-Woon took out the sword from its scabbard. Yeo-Woon closed the window so Jang could not see him and readied himself. It was the basic stance that Jang did before unleashing his skill. A strange energy radiated from his body. Yeo-Woon's eyes flashed as he started performing the technique. Yeo-Woon then swung his arm to unleash his dagger. He performed many different movements. He did not learn, nor was he taught, but his movements now matched Jang's movements outside. Jang had trained his actions for 20 years, but Yeo-Woon could mimic his movements perfectly. Nano's voice rang in his ears again. Muscle analysis complete for training the movements. Will you accept the transfer to your muscles? Nano spoke while he was pondering over the possibilities. I need the muscle transfer too? Yeo-Woon asked curiously. If you don't have the properly developed muscles for your movement, you will. Before Nano could finish, Yeo-Woon felt pain tearing through his entire muscle. It was so intense that he couldn't even move. He fell down on his knees, with an electric current running throughout his body. Yeo-Woon could not understand the reason behind the pain, so he asked Nano. Why is my body like this, Nano? There is muscle damage as it is not yet suitable for movement. Nano explained to Woon. Okay, now I get it. Can you please make it easier for me to understand? Yeo-Woon thought as he barely got up and sat down on the bed. Changing language to fit the user's level. Level? Yeo-Woon frowned as it didn't feel too good, but he couldn't understand fully either. Translation complete. You did not train like Jang for a long time, so your body is not yet accustomed to the movements that your brain has learned. Only after simulating the movements and analyzing the muscle development requirements can you use it fully. Nano explained in normal terms. Okay. I think I understand better now. It's still hard, said Yeo-Woon. Most terms that Nano used were not used by people of current times, which was hard to understand. Would you like to lower the language level to the lowest level? No, that won't be necessary. So if I transfer the muscle development, I won't have this bad pain? Yeo-Woon could still feel pain all over his body. He was sweating endlessly. That is correct. Will you begin the transfer? Asked Nano. How long does it take? Asked Yeo-Woon. Reshaping muscles will require every nanomachine inside the body, which will take loading time. Approximately 2 hours. It was still early in the morning, so 2 hours was okay. Yeo-Woon nodded and agreed with the transfer. Activating muscle transfer. It will come with strong pain, so you will be put under anesthesia, said Nano. Does it hurt? Yeo-Woon asked while placing a hand on his heart. He hesitated a bit before asking. It comes with severe pain. There have been millions of cases of fainting from the pain. Should I try it without anesthesia? Yeo-Woon wondered curiously. Will you proceed without anesthesia? If I can't bear it, can you put me to sleep? Yeo-Woon added. He soon realized he was not wrong in adding that last part. Beginning the process. As millions of nanomachines began moving toward his muscles, he felt ticklish. This doesn't seem. And the muscle change began at once. He gasped. The muscles twisted and his eyes rolled backward at the intense pain. He couldn't scream, but he couldn't hold back either. Yeo-Woon twisted in agony and almost screamed as Nano's voice rang in his head. Injecting anesthesia. And Yeo-Woon fell asleep. After completing his morning training, Jang started preparing breakfast. He tasted the food that he prepared. This is as good as neighborhood masters, said Jang. He had been cooking for Prince Cheon Yeo-Woon for 5 years. As the prince came back from a critical incident, he decided to cook a special dish for him. He was not a good cook, but 5 years ago, after Lady Hwa's death, he had to start cooking for the young prince, and now he was very skilled at it. Most of the time he prepared a simple breakfast, but today he prepared red pig meat that he got yesterday with an egg. It was to congratulate Yeo-Woon's admission to the academy. It was maybe the last time he could enjoy a meal without worry, so Jang paid extra attention to preparing it. I hope he survives to enjoy my cooking again. That's when Jang heard some screaming. Yeo-Woon's room was close to the kitchen, so Jang was able to hear it easily. He grabbed the sword and ran toward Yeo-Woon's room. As he burst into the room, Yeo-Woon was sprawled out with only his upper body on the bed and bubbles foaming from his mouth. He was unconscious. Prince! He quickly ran over and checked the prince's pulse. It didn't seem weird as it was just like when he found him on the mountain 2 years ago. He's fine. What was he, huh? Jang then saw the faint trace of footsteps on the floor of the room. He placed Yeo-Woon on top of the bed and checked the footprints carefully. Is it? He wasn't sure, so he placed his foot over the footprint and moved along with it. He was shocked. The footsteps represented the traces of his own dagger skills. A mere footstep would not leave a trace like this on a wooden floor, but martial arts movements sometimes left deep traces after pushing the feet down with hard stomps. What? Did he learn it on his own? It was unbelievable. Jang had trained for 20 years to achieve his skill, but this prince had taken the perfect steps. It would require at least years of basic training to accomplish this. He watched my training for 2 years at most. This made Jang dumbfounded. He watched my training for just 2 years and caught up to my 20 years of experience. It was unbelievable, but also it made his eyes turn red with tears. No energy, he just knows the movements. Maybe it was for the better. If it was revealed that he had learned to how use internal energy, it was going to enrage the 6 clans. Jang looked at Yeo-Woon for a while and then walked out. 2 hours then passed by. Muscle transfer complete. Deactivating anesthesia. With a jolt in his head, Yeo-Woon woke up from his sleep. Yeo-Woon got up panting. He remembered the extreme pain right before he was put to sleep. He did not want to feel that kind of pain anymore. Ha! I will never try it again. I warned you, master, said Nano. Yeo-Woon realized something and wondered, why was I lying down properly? Did guard Jang came by? It was Yeo-Woon's choice to try it out. He then got up from the bed and walked to the center of the room to prepare himself to use the dagger skill. Now it won't hurt, right? He asked Nano. Through the simulation, you now have the same muscles as the ones that practiced the movements for 20 years, said Nano. Yeo-Woon took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Good. Yeo-Woon prepared his stance, and then swung his dagger straight forward using the dagger technique, and a strange energy appeared around his body. The power seemed to be very different from a while ago as his movements were more precise and accurate. Yeo-Woon got excited as he kept on performing the dagger technique. He finished all the movements required for the technique in just moments. That is all for the first formation. Yeo-Woon completed the first formation of the dagger technique instantly. As he stomped to move on to his next formation, the wooden floor rumbled loudly. Yeo-Woon's mind was too focused on the technique that he did not realize leaving traces of his footsteps on the floor. No! Yeo-Woon was surprised and stopped immediately. The floor now had marks of his footsteps. This is bad. He became worried that Jang might see this. It leaves footprints even without internal energy. While he was thinking about it, that's when someone knocked on the door. Prince, your breakfast is ready. It was Jang. Yeo-Woon pressed down on the area that had the footprint to remove it, but it didn't work. That's when the door opened and Jang walked in. Prince? Oh. Haha, I'm so hungry. Yeo-Woon quickly got up and brought the table near the window to the center of the room. Jang asked curiously, don't you always eat by the window? Yeah, but I won't be returning for a while, so I wanted to eat in the center, said Yeo-Woon. It was suspicious enough, but Jang silently placed breakfast on the table. Yeo-Woon sighed and sat down on the chair. Breakfast was baked pig meat, fried vegetables, and the eggs that he loved. It was not a feast that the 6 clans enjoyed, but this was still lavish enough for Yeo-Woon. He became silent as he knew that it was Jang's act of kindness for Yeo-Woon, who might not return from the academy. Yeo-Woon took the chopsticks and began eating with teary eyes. Strong emotions contributing to acid coming up the throat. Increasing saliva level. Please swallow the food with saliva to calm down the acid, said Nano. Stop saying weird stuff and shut up. Yeo-Woon was annoyed by Nano's explanation of every little stuff. Going into silent mode. Nano became silent and Yeo-Woon swallowed his food. He couldn't leave any food behind. Please eat slowly. You are going to get an indigestion, said Jang. Yeo-Woon put down the chopsticks after eating his fill. That was a good meal, Jang, he said. After a quiet breakfast, Jang began asking, when did you? He couldn't say the word steal to his prince. So he said, when did you learn my dagger skill? Huh? What are you talking about? Yeo-Woon was surprised by the sudden question. Jang pushed the table to the side and pointed at the floor. There was a clear footprint on the floor. I wasn't wrong. The clear print was certainly from the stomp made by moving on to the second formation of the dagger skill. Yeo-Woon did not learn any martial arts, but he was still from Murim and he knew what the laws were like. Stealing other people's martial arts techniques was strictly forbidden and looked down upon. He did steal it through Nano, so he had nothing to say about it. He couldn't even look into Jang's probably disappointed look. Jang then knelt down and spoke with a soft voice. You did a good job. I am your guard, Prince. If it wasn't for the oath, I would have taught you my skills already. Jang. Yeo-Woon's eyes filled up with tears. Jang was more of a father figure to him than his real father. Jang took out a paper filled with writing and gave it to Yeo-Woon. "What's this?" "It's an energy flow method for the internal energy of the dagger skill," said Jang. "Why are you giving this to me?" said Yeo-Woon. "I would love to give you a method on how to train the internal energy itself, but you will find a better one at the academy. Learn it." Yeo-Woon was now shedding tears. Guard Jang looked at the boy and remembered the time from 5 years ago. Yeo-Woon swore that he would never cry after his mother's death, but he was still a young boy. It had been 5 years since Lady Hua, the mother of Yeo-Woon, passed away. Guard Jang had been taking care of Yeo-Woon from then on. But Cheon Yeo-Woon is still a boy who has not received his parents' affection. Jang got up and took the empty plates before he began walking out. He then stopped to speak. "You can cry today, but you will need to be stronger from now on." "Thank you." Yeo-Woon bowed his head and shed his last tears. He wiped the tears off his face. He now had no fear or hesitation. Even without his mother, he still had a place to return to. In the afternoon, the street near the demonic cult's castle was bustling with people. The opening ceremony was going to begin soon. Every boy, ranging from 14 to 19 years of age in every family and clan of the demonic cult, was now gathering at the demonic academy. The demonic cult had 6 clans, 3 guardians, and hundreds of small clans and groups. The demonic academy was opened once every 10 years to train a new elite individual. This current one had candidates that were the heirs to the Lord, so everyone labeled the academy as an heirship competition. And this was a wonderful opportunity for many small clans to side with the future heir to the Lord. Thousands of boys and girls all gathered to join the academy. The great training ground located right past the entrance of the academy was large enough to fit all the students inside. "Look! It's the left guardian. If he's here, the Lord will be here soon." There was a middle-aged man with long red hair walking out from the left side of the giant stage, scoffing at children down on the ground. "Fools! We only have fools this time. Or it may be the last time." The middle-aged man was the left guardian, Fire King Lee Ham, or the closest advisor to the Lord. "Did you all come here without the resolve that this place could be your last?" Lee Hamming shouted at the contestants. The Lord had 3 guardians with him. The Great Guardian, Left Guardian, and Right Guardian only acted on the Lord's orders. They ranked within the top 10 of fighting prowess within the demonic cult. Are those the heirs from the 6 clans?" Hamming glanced at the princes standing in front of all children. All students who entered the academy were given a round name tag with numbers. They were given the numbers based on the order they entered, but these princes were exceptions. They are quite something as kids. The other children were all lined up neatly, but these 6 princes arrogantly stood at the front as if they were telling everyone that they were on top of them all. Unlike others who had white tags with black numbers on them, these princes had black tags with red numbers according to their rank in the succession. Wise Clan, Chun Mian. Sword Clan, Chun Kungwon. Loyal Clan, Chun Yukiam. Poison Clan, Chun Jongsum. Blade Clan, Chun Yuchan. Lust Clan, Chun Wonryu. They only had numbers on their tags, but Hammond knew their names. There were 2 girl candidates last time, and although there was only 1 girl this time around from the Lust Clan, he didn't really care. "Everyone else is here, but I don't see him." Hamming swept his glance across everyone, but he couldn't find the one he was looking for. There was one boy who was getting all the attention from the higher ranks of the demonic cult. Oh, there he is. The heir candidate not from the 6 clans. Hamming finally found Yeo-Woon. He would not have found him if he didn't have a black tag. At the entrance, at the very end of the line, Cheon Yeo-Woon stood there alone. He was still a son of the Lord, but he couldn't come up to the front. And it also seemed like the other kids around him were shunning him. Therefore, he stood there alone. He's receiving attention in an interesting way. That was the end of the interest. Hammond knew that Yeo-Woon did not train in martial arts, so he was going to fail the entrance test. Yeo-Woon wasn't late. At the entrance, the administration could not find his name tag. He was told that his tag was missing and had to wait until the end. So even with the black tag, he couldn't go up to the front. It was certain that it was the work of someone from the 6 clans, but it didn't matter to him. He knew that it would not be good for him to create trouble with the 6 clans at the start. It's best I avoid trouble with them from the beginning anyway. Cheon Yeo-Woon liked that. They wanted to kill him even before joining the academy, so it was better to not see them at all. There are so many. Cheon Yeo-Woon was able to see 1,000 children standing in front of him. The horn sound blared across the field, and people began to mumble. It was due to the person who had just entered. 1,000 boys and girls began to chant with shouts. The sound of heavy footsteps came from inside the huge building. A man with the character sky on his black silk clothes came out of the building with the left guardian and great guardian. All contestants present looked up in a daze. It was their long-cherished wish to see the demon lord from close. The person in front got up and sat down on the throne up on the stage. It was the lord, and one of the 5 strongs of Wuling, Cheon Yeo-Woon. And to the right of the throne was a ragged-clothed man who seemed to be having a hard time standing up as if he were drunk. "Those shabby clothes, you drunkard bastard." The left guardian Li Haming taunted the drunkard. He was the right guardian, Submeng, the crazy blade. He acted silly, but he was still ranked within the top 10 strong men in the demonic cult. "What are you looking at?" said the drunkard. Submeng spat at Hammond, who looked at him with a disgusted look and took a sip from his bottle of liquor. The great guardian, Murim, turned around and glared at them and asked them to keep quiet, which sent shivers down their spine. As the lord sat down on the throne, even without his title, his presence was overwhelming even in front of 1,000 people. I can't even look at him directly. Yeo-Woon had lost the courage to even look up to him. Next to the lord was the lead guardian, great guardian King Murim. He had a special mask on his face so that no one knew what he really looked like. Murim then walked onto the stage and shouted silence. It was a voice laced with an internal energy that spread through to everyone. The training ground went silent at once. "The most honorable one, it is ready." Murim turned back and spoke quietly. Lord Cheon Yeo-Woon got up from his throne. He glared at the contestants present in the field. His gaze was filled with a highly concentrated demonic aura. "To all who have entered the academy, you will be the future of our cult." And unlike Murim, who shouted, the Lord spoke softly. However, his voice was crystal clear in the ears of the 1,000 boys and girls. It was proof of Cheon Yeo-Woon's sheer power. "I welcome you in joining the academy. I hope you train and play your part in our cult." And that was it. Cheon Yeo-Woon turned and great guardian Murim spoke to him. The speech was so short that it made the students fall silent, but soon they shouted and chanted. "For the demonic cult." That was a wonderful speech. The Lord then walked off the stage with Murim guiding him. While walking away from the stage, Cheon Yeo-Woon's eyes fall on Yeo-Woon. His gaze was so cold. He was standing far away at the end of everyone. The Lord turned around to look at him for a moment, and then left with the great guardian. Yeo-Woon's eyes were filled with rage. He just blankly stared at his father, the lord of the demonic cult. Cheon Yeo-Woon wasn't sure how he felt. He had never seen his father for 15 years, but he met his eyes with him for the first time. I don't care anyway. He didn't appear when his mother, Lady Hua, died. There was no disappointment when he didn't care in the first place. That's when people fell silent as Fire King Haming stood up on the stage. With his speech, "We will begin now." As the Fire King Haming spoke, all the contestants started murmuring among themselves. Ham got annoyed listening to their rambling. "Stand straight." Haming's voice pierced through the air and the students shut up. He emitted thick killing intent from his body. "I'll keep it simple. Listen up." Ham began to explain the system of the Demonic Academy. The academy will last for 4 years and have 6 stages. Everyone knew the academy lasted for 4 years. But there were some who had teachers or parents who did not attend the academy, so they began to focus on the tests on each of the 6 stages. You can take the 6 stages in steps, and you can take it only once. Students began to mumble about only getting 1 shot at each stage. One failure meant that they would be cast out. You seem to get it pretty quickly. If you do not pass, you will be expelled right away, said Fire King Hamon. There was only one chance to rise up. That's when a handsome boy standing in the front row raised his hand. I have a question. It was Yeo-Woon with the number 2 on his tag. In second place for the throne, it was Chun Kung-won of the Sword Clan. Hamon was in the middle of his speech, but Kung-won confidently interrupted him. However, who said you could ask questions? What? Chun Kung-won's handsome face grimaced. He had been treated with respect by everyone around him because he was a prince, but it was shocking to be treated with hostility. Oh? So you have a problem with my attitude? Prince? Do you want to be expelled even before the competition? Left Guardian Lee Hamung spat angrily. Chun Kung-won was angered, but he couldn't say anything. He was reminded of what his guard warned him about the other day. Once you're in the academy, every privilege you had for being the son of the Lord will be removed. And whoever is appointed as the chief of the academy, never cross his lines. He didn't mind it when he heard it, but he now realized it after experiencing it. He was against one of the strongest in the demonic cult. The other 5 heirs smirked at him. I apologize, sir. Chun Kung-won bowed down. The training ground went quiet after Chun Kung-won's embarrassing moment. Left Guardian Lee Hamon continued, I know what your question is. Do you think just one chance is too harsh? There will be special privileges given to those who move forward into the next stage. Everyone became intrigued. Those who stayed in the academy longer came out with more powerful prowess and higher titles. The first privilege is medicine. You will be given a medicine ball called the Black Dragon Ball. This is given each time you overcome the challenge. This ball was created within the demonic cult. It wasn't as good as the one created in Murim, but it was still good enough that made the person who consumed it would gain 20 years' worth of internal energy. In simple math, passing the 6 tests would give the person 120 years' worth of internal energy. Of course, this was also the kind of medicine that would build immunity after continued use, but it was still a good privilege. 6 stages, huh? Cheon Yeo-Woon also seemed interested. He had no internal energy right now, but if he were to pass all 6 tests, he would be given the chance to increase his internal energy instantly. The second will be the book The Martial Arts Secrets. If you are a martial artist, you should know the importance of such books, said Lee Hamung. The library has 5 floors. The higher the floor, the stronger the books. You will be given access to a higher floor once you go up the stages. This was one of the most important privileges in the academy. The 5th floor, which was the last floor, was full of secrets to various martial arts manuals of Wulin itself. There were many books within the academy, and even the books from the 6 clans' martial arts or secret martial arts were stored within the academy. Books. This was what Yeo-Woon needed the most. With the nanomachine's power, he was able to learn the dagger skill, but he needed to get stronger. However, you all won't even go near the 5th floor, so give up. Hamung spoke discouragingly, but the second privilege was still astounding. Not to mention, all of this also meant that whoever the students were, or wherever they came from, they all had equal chances to obtain greater power if they could take it. It meant that the stronger the person was, the more powerful they would get. While the Fire King was explaining, the right guardian Sub-Ming stood there consuming alcohol. He always hated the left guardian for playing tricks on newbies by raising their morales and dropping them at the same time. After a momentary silence, Lee Hamung explained the third reward, the third and last benefit you will get, is that everyone can get a rank that they never had before. Listening to the guardian's words, everyone got active. So, this was why. The princes realized why everyone said it would be different once they were in the academy. In the academy, no one would be protected by privilege or their family bloodline. Everyone was under the same food chain. If you passed the first stage, you are a low-ranked warrior. Second, middle-ranked. Third, high-ranked. I hope none of you from military clan backgrounds stay only at the 2nd to 3rd ranks like losers. Hamung spoke to students with a smirk. Oh, but even those of you who only want to be mid to high-ranked warriors will still be given medicine balls. Don't worry. As Ham said, the academy gave privileges to even the low-ranked warriors, which was a good opportunity for warrior prospects who want to become more powerful. If you pass the 4th stage, you will be given the title of squad leader, and you will be given the title of clan leader upon your 5th stage test. For the 6th stage, it won't matter to you, also I'll just skip it. Ham said that because he had his reasons. The 6th stage test was almost impossible and less than 10 people would manage to pass the test. That's why Hammond didn't anticipate such an event. And although you all start out with the same cadet rank, you will all come to have different ranks per the progress through your stages. You will then need to obey your superior. That was the core element of the academy. One who does not strive higher will be left to rot. Cheon Yeo-Woon looked on eagerly. If he had survived until now, it was time for him to go up in the food chain. Don't be too happy. Most of you will not even go further than the 3rd stage. Hammond cracked a smile as he gave his closing statement. I'm done explaining. Begin forming groups for assigned dorms, and I will proceed with the first test on the stage, said Lee Hammond. After hearing the Right Guardian's words, Yeo-Woon stared dazedly for a moment. Realizing what he said, Yeo-Woon was stunned in place, with his eyes wide open. What? First test already? He had no internal energy, and it was likely for him to fail the test. He had to hope that the test was either easy or did not require internal energy. The students became shocked to hear the sudden progress. They didn't think they would be tested on the first day. How can we have the first test already? Haven't we supposed to learn something first? What if we get expelled? The students started murmuring. It was their life goal to get admitted to Demonic Cult Academy, and now they were on the verge of getting expelled. As I said before, if you fail this test, you are expelled. If you can't pass this test, you don't even deserve to be a low-ranked warrior. The Right Guardian shouted loudly using his internal energy that quieted down everyone in the field. More than half of the students became pale. They thought they would at least learn something before the test, but this meant that anyone with no training had no chance. Hammond declared what the test was. The first test will assess your basic skills. You will need at least basic internal energy if you are going to be a warrior of our cult. If you fail this test, you will be sent down to the farms or mines for hard labor. Cheon Yeo-Woon frowned. This meant that if there was one without any internal energy, he was going to fail. Hammond was joking around, but Cheon Yeo-Woon felt uncomfortable after hearing it. This is problematic. Try your best to. No, we do need people to do the dirty work, so don't try too hard. At the very end, Right Guardian Lee Hammond smirked while finishing his sentence. His purpose was to pressure the new candidates, and it is achieved now. Yeo-Woon was furious as he thought that at least the academy did not have traps set up for him. However, the internal energy test on the first day seemed to be too coincidental to think that it wasn't made for him. Was this why they didn't want me to train? Yeo-Woon now realized why the ladies of the 6 clans did not allow him to train. If he were to be expelled here, he would be cast out, and he'd stay within the lowest caste of the cult. This would allow those people to kill him whenever they wanted to. Chun Mukim, the prince of the loyal clan, seemed to be satisfied. He laughed while thinking about Yeo-Woon. I was going to kill him myself, but this will get rid of him. Whoever thought of this is a genius. So he thought. The loyal clan did not have a part in not allowing Yeo-Woon to train. Mukim knew it was one of the 6 clans who led the plan, but he didn't realize it was to expel Yeo-Woon from the first stage test. That is when Cheon Yeo-Woon's eyes got widened as he looked in front. A beautiful, alluring middle-aged woman came up onto the stage with many assistants, and she was holding the chain. She was the clan leader of Lust Clan and Demonic Sect 5th Elder Hang Soil. The lady went up the stage. Hammond pointed at her and said she is the clan leader of the Lust Clan, and the proctor who will watch over this test. Our 5th elder, Hang Soya. Hammond explained this test is a piece of cake. If you fail here, you will never get a chance to even become a low-ranked warrior. What test calls for the 5th elder to come? The students were filled with questions. After she finished, Hang Soya sat down and ready to play the string instrument that she brought with her. It seemed like people realized what she was going to do, and they began plugging their ears while crouching down. Yeo-Woon was confused while watching all the contestants covering their ears. Just then. Well, you kids will not withstand her musical energy wave, but she will control it for you weaklings. With luck, you might even endure it without any internal energy, said Lee Hamung. Damn it. His last set of words felt like he was talking to Yeo-Woon. The musical energy wave was not something that one could tolerate with just endurance. Cheon Yeo-Woon bit his lips. If they have even a slight amount of internal energy, they will be able to endure a minute. Fitting her clan name, Hang Sawyer spoke with a beautiful voice, but none of the students were able to hear it as they were already plugging their ears. The first test was to endure the energy wave attack. This was also the simplest way to easily weed out unworthy students. Those who endure the energy wave for a minute will pass the test. Begin! Lee Hamung gave in the signal to start the test. Let's see what will happen to Yeo-Woon in the next part. Will he be able to join the demonic academy and change his lifestyle or not? That's all for today. If you like the next part of this manhwa, just comment below. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment for getting epic content on this channel. See you next time.